Now let's start to get into options where I can't get my partner swept, okay, in the butterfly sweep where he's posting his hands, but I'm able to still kind of elevate him, okay? Different than, you know, where he was posting his hands and his weight's back and I'm not able to get an initial elevation. What I'm talking about now is where I get his hands posted from an elevation, something like this, okay? And if you notice, I didn't really talk about these grips yet. I didn't talk about two lapels, and I didn't talk about two elbows or two sleeves, okay? The reason why is because I don't feel like those give great control to prevent the guy from getting ahead of you in the grip fight and the passing game, okay? You can go to those grips, but do it at your own risk. If you went to both lapels, like I would really make sure I would start yanking, okay? And if you went to two elbows is fine, but one elbow is not, okay? So the reason why I don't find myself getting two elbows that often is because it's not good to start on one elbow because you have no control of the distance between your shoulders and his. The collar gives control of the shoulders. This doesn't give any control. All right. And there's going to be times where, you know, you find yourself able to get both. All right. And that will be fine. But you shouldn't start with this initially. Okay. But either way, we can use this grip as an example, but you can do it from any of the grips that we worked today where I'm getting my partner elevated and his hands go to the mat. Okay. So off of this hook lift, I'm going to start to work some submissions. The first submission that I'm going to look to go to is going to be the inverted armbar, okay? So once my partner's hands post over here, my other hand is going to look to hit right against his elbow, okay? If you remember, when we did this elbow control armbar, we were trying to push right against his elbow. That's exactly what I want you to think about for the inverted armbar. The only difference is now we're not using the lower palm of our hand. We're using the forearm, like the flat part of the wrist over here, like lower part of the forearm over here, okay? And one thing you guys can do to practice that is if you have your partner just rest the hand over here, like, or put the hand on your head like a collar tie, you can just practice like finding his elbow with that spot and hitting. Once that arm straightens, then you go into a rotation carrying his arm over, okay? And you have to hit the elbow, just like how you had to grab the elbow in the elbow control armbar, you have to hit the elbow on this one. So if his arm's a little bit turned like sideways for whatever reason, you gotta come on the side and hit it. If his arm's like tucked like this, you really gotta get under and find that spot, okay? And obviously if his arm's more like this, even easier. You're gonna hit it a lot easier, right? So when I'm here and I start to go on a hook lift, either to set the move up or I start to go on a sweep and he posts his hand, my hand is gonna look to hit that spot. I bring my head at that time to his wrist, okay? Why? I need something to push against, okay? If my head wasn't there and I hit, it's just his arm's gonna go across. Just like on the elbow control armbar, if his arm wasn't tucked in and I hit, his arm's just gonna go across, right? So when I'm here, I get the post and I hit, I bring my head to the problem. Now once I'm here, my goal, it's called the inverted armbar. Why? Because his elbow faces the ceiling instead of the floor, okay? So my goal is going to be to keep rotating that elbow up towards the ceiling. And the way I do that is I start to hip escape, okay? And turn my arm over, almost like I'm arm wrestling over here. Like so. As I'm doing that, I'm kicking my hooks out and I'm almost trying to like sit up. From here, my head is like pinched like it's on the phone. And you can see I changed onto my left hip in this case. Once I get over here, leg is gonna throw over his back, and I make sure there's a gap so I have room to break. If my chest or my ribs are here, I'm not gonna have room to break. So I need to make sure there's a gap. So the way I do that is my hip moves back, my head comes forward, and I start to sit up. And I apply a lot of downward pressure through my arms over here. My other hand can do a couple things. It's really a preference thing. I've seen people have success grabbing like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. It's kind of a preference thing. If I was to coach a beginner, I would recommend doing this, okay? So again, see this angle, let's change the angle a little bit more. So I'm here in the position. Maybe I was double elbow. I get his hands to post. Hit, bring my head to the position. Hit the skate back. I'm sitting up. I'm using my abs over here. Leg comes on top to prevent the posture. Prevents from posturing up and preventing from rolling. I'm looking back, acting like I'm on the phone over here, and I'm crunching forward. When I say I'm acting like I'm on the phone over here, you want to be like bringing your shoulder towards your ear and your head back and towards your ear. Okay? Let's try this angle, see how that works. So I'm here, maybe I was shallow on the underhooks, I just got his hands to post. And I make a strong hip escape and I'm going right to that position. I'm getting a tap right on his elbow. Last time. And we have the inverted armbar.
Do the hand variations on this angle.
Okay.
Just stop, go back to sitting, and just say, let's just take one more look at the hand positions for the finish.
Okay. Let's just take one more look at the hands positions for the finish, okay? So when we're here, I can roll his arm over and come like this, nice and strong. I can come like this. I can use a gable grip nice and strong, or I can do a rear naked choke grip nice and strong. What's important is whichever part has contact with the elbow is reinforcing weight being distributed downwards through the position. So again, here. And I can start to go to the armbar. Okay, so sometimes when we're attacking this inverted armbar over here, what happens is as you go to attack, your partner feels the threat of the elbow and he changes to hugging your head, right? Or other times, maybe you just got your partner's hands to post and you like the shoulder crunch position, so you change to the shoulder crunch position and your partner's trying to pull out of the shoulder crunch and he starts to expose the inverted armbar. So what I want to explain right now is a little bit about the relationship between the two positions, okay? So when I'm here, I got my partner's hands to post and I started to attack the inverted armbar. If my partner comes in deeper to the position, I'm going to change to the shoulder crunch. So what I'm looking to do is connect palm to palm, glue his shoulder right to my sternum over here, okay? My one elbow that's underneath his chin is low, so it's against my ribs. My other elbow underneath his arm is high, and my head is going back and over, okay? This is what's going to keep his arm in place. Don't just go sideways. His arm can still move. Like post outward wider? Yeah, exactly. My head goes back and over. Move your arm. A lot harder, right? Good. Now from this position, I'm going to work to do the shoulder crunch sweep. So I always prefer to start with an initial sit-up or at least a crunch where I'm crunching and extending forwards. And now I start to tilt myself towards the side and my elbows are going to change as I make the single leg extension on the butterfly sweep. So my right elbow was initially low, it's going to go high. My left elbow was initially high, it's going to go low. And I carry him over for the hook sweep, getting myself to the top position. So again, I got my partner's hands down to the ground. I was attacking the armbar, but he started to come forward. I'm going to go to that shoulder crunch. I pinch the position nice and tight. Getting his shoulder stuck to my sternum. Head goes to the side and back to keep that arm stuck. In this case, left elbow high, right elbow low. Okay, let's change the angle. So you can see my right elbow's glued to my ribs and my left elbow's high. From here, I can start to extend my partner forwards, okay? And now I can start to go into my sweeping options. I'm gonna put my back on the ground and go in the single leg extension on the hook lift, and I change my elbows. Right elbow went high, left elbow went low. You'll notice too that my right elbow going high gets him going over that direction, okay? One other thing also that you'll note is, guys, I'm always trying to explain things based on like tools that we have. So if you were able, when you were here on this shoulder crunch, to sit back up, well, you can do the scissor variation where you scissor the legs if his knees are tight. If his knees are wide, you can do the short hook sweep variation, kicking his base out and turning him through with the same upper body control. And then also, when you're here, if when you sit up and he puts all his weight this way and posts his hand, well, now you can come back to the triangle variation. If you go back to the triangle, you can also go back towards that inverted armbar, okay? So without going into too much detail that we already went over in previous moves, I just wanted to highlight those options from that position. One last thing about the relationship between the elbow crunch and the inverted armbar. If I'm here and I started with that initial hug on the position and my partner tried to pull out of the position, he's extending his arm, okay? This would be my chance to change back towards the inverted armbar. The way I'm gonna do that is, as I feel that start to happen is, as he goes to extend, I'm gonna help him. So I'm gonna extend my hooks further. I can even bring my feet on the hips if that feels more comfortable. And to get myself orientated properly, I'm gonna use shoulder and hip motion until I get myself adjusted to the perfect inverted armbar position. My forearm's doing the same thing. It's hitting the elbow and rotating over, just like we did in the last movement. What's important is, though, that I don't get my chest stuck underneath. Okay, I'm gonna have nowhere to crank. So what I do is I go shoulder, hip, shoulder, hip, shoulder, hip. Leg stays on top. And I work the same finishing mechanics, crunching forwards with my head and getting my hip back. So I'll do it on this side real quick. So my partner elects to back out of the armbar. Shoulder, hip, as I start to extend him away. You can find my feet on the hips, shoulder, hip, keeping that tight pinch, keeping the forearm right on the elbow, leg on top, and just clamp and finish the position. So that's the relationship between the inverted armbar and the shoulder crunch control and sweeps. Okay, so now let's look at what happens if my partner decides to bail when I'm attacking the inverted arm lock, okay? So there's basically two ways that my partner can bail on the position. One he can kind of just like fall over onto his side, and another one is he can roll. So let's look at both real quick, okay? So when I'm here, I hit my hook lift, right? I'm gonna go ahead and attack this arm over here. Sometimes as you're going to the sweep, what's gonna happen is, sorry Danny, can you look at actually? What's gonna happen is as you're going to the sweep, your partner's arm is just gonna like tuck underneath and he's just gonna look to go sideways like this. If that happens, you're just gonna come on top, all right? Just find the position and follow it on top. The submission's probably gone, but he basically just gave you the sweep. One that takes a little bit more athleticism, but you'll still encounter sometimes, is instead of your partner to fall over sideways, they're gonna do a forward roll, okay? So when I'm here in the position, as I go to attack the arm, I start to go to attack and Danny's gonna forward roll over the shoulder, like so. And if I don't know what to do here, he can scramble his way back up on top and I can end in a bad position, okay? So when we're here and I get that initial position, as he's going, my hook, pay attention to my right leg, is gonna act like it's carrying him over for a sweep. Rotate for me. Beautiful. Once it carries him over for a sweep, this creates a wall or like some pressure, so it's hard for him to sit up. Because if he sits up, that's how he's gonna get on top, okay? Once I have that over here, I'm gonna look to start to get up onto my head and my shoulder over here, and just pivot myself back through for your staggered armbar. I'm gonna change to his wrist, pull everything tight to me, curl my leg, make sure this knee points up to the ceiling, don't leave it open. 2 hands go to the wrist. I'm gonna break over the south hip as I start to arch into the elbow. So again, move over here then. So I'm here. Get the reaction over here. Leg throws over. You put your feet flat for me. I'm gonna come up onto my head over here, my elbow, and I'm gonna use this gap to shoot my knee underneath. Once I shoot my knee underneath, I control the wrist, make sure this knee points to the ceiling, break towards the south hip, and start to arch and get the finish. So one time in one motion. Let's try it this way, Danny. Okay, the last thing I want to go over for this series is the idea of playing up and down the ladder. So right now we've been working primarily on climbing up the ladder, right? So maybe I started at the 2-on-1, this grip got broken somehow, I had to change to the collar, it wasn't enough to lift him, I had to change to the underhooks, and I'm climbing my way up his body, right? Now that's great, but you're also gonna have times where you're gonna have to go back down the ladder to those other controls. And one of those best examples of that is off of your attack from that initial inverted armbar. If your partner is able to turn his elbow down before you get a good bite. So what I mean is, sometimes when we're here and I start to lift my partner over here and I go for this bite and he pulls his elbow to his ribs like this, I missed everything, okay? When that happens, I have to be able now to reset my thinking to go back to an earlier control, right? So maybe I started deep on the double under or something to set this position up, and as he started to do that, exactly, he started to tuck his elbow. So my one hand can go right to his wrist over here on the cross grip, and now from here I'm gonna change to his elbow. I scoot him away, and now I'm right back into my 2-on-1 series, right? Another option that I have is when I'm here, is as I go for this initial attack, over here he tucks his arm in, I can change to his collar, sit back up, and now I'm going back into my collar and elbow series, keeping his arm trapped tight like we spoke about previously. I can eventually also find my way back up towards those attacks. Like, so if I'm here in the position, I start to go for this attack, the arm slips out, I make it to his belt, one more time, I get the opposite arm to post, and now I'm back right where I wanted, maybe just on the other side. So going up and down the ladder of these controls is so important because you don't want to be in a position where you throw an attack at your partner and you're left with no control if you miss, okay? That goes for any attack, not just this inverted armbar, but I think that one is a good example that demonstrates that. Whenever you go to an attack and it misses, try to connect another attack. If you can't connect another attack, at least connect yourself back to one of the controls so you can start to set up the series that we've gone over previously, or start to set up an attack or even the same attack from a different angle. Okay, so now let's talk about one control that we didn't go over yet, and I quite intentionally saved it for last because this control I think offers the most control to your opponent. That being said, I think you should get very good at this control because if you get good at this control, it's going to give them a hard time, and there's a lot of offense from this control. That controls the overhook, okay? So when I say it gives your opponent a lot of control, it's because you're giving them an underhook, all right? And whenever you're giving your partner an underhook, they have the ability to control the distance a little better, and they can still keep sprawling and walking back and moving their hips back and stuff like that, so it becomes a little bit harder to elevate them and to go into your attacks. But as long as you keep a couple things in mind, even though you're giving them that control, you can still stay ahead of the position as long as you know what to monitor, okay? So the first thing that I'm gonna look to do off of an overhook is I'm gonna make sure that I'm always on my side, okay? That allows me to put my shoulder over his shoulder here and put weight into the position. Almost like in wrestling when they do wizard to defend the single leg. That's what you wanna imagine. So if Danny put me flat on my back over here and I'm like this, even though I have like, rotate for me, even though I have like an overhook, this is terrible. Okay, this isn't doing anything. All right, what I need is this. This is an overhook control. All right, see the difference? I'm on my side over here. What I'm looking to do in this overhook control is one of two things. I can bring my fist to my chest, that's acceptable, or I can feed the lapel and get his far lapel on the underneath side. Okay, as high as I can. This is gonna afford me like a lot of control in the position, okay? The other thing that I need to think about, especially if I'm flat, is I need to think about knee line and him getting to my head with this hand. So if any time he's able to stuff my knee in between his knees, this is starting to become a problem. Look, I'm already starting to go flat, okay? The other thing that I need to think about, especially if he manages to get that knee in between, is if he can get a crossface over here. Okay, now I'm really in a lot of trouble, okay? But if I'm here and I'm on my side and my knee line is always monitored, my knee is always tight to my body over here, anytime he tries to step over that, I'm always bringing that through, or I'm always monitoring this hand, then I'm gonna be fine in the position, okay? And so that's the point. I keep my knee line free by monitoring this hand, and I keep my head free by monitoring this hand. So I can control anywhere from the wrist to the sleeve, or my favorite is a gooseneck grip, where I'm kind of just like cupping my arm almost like the shape of a gooseneck over here and pinning it to him. Don't do something like this where you're pushing, okay? This doesn't give you a very good pull. The thing about this grip is you can pull him and push him as you need. You can pull him and monitor him. So if he tries to move his arm around, like you can see, I can follow him pretty easy in the position. If he goes to my knee to try to beat my knee line, I can always go to his wrist. I can come back out and control the position with the overhook and with those details in mind. Okay, so let's look at a demo of some sweeps that I can do from the overhook, okay? And a lot of them are gonna be the same sweeps that we've been over just now with a overhook control, okay? So you're gonna be using that single leg extension, or you're gonna be using that short hook sweep where you're kicking the guy out, okay? But let's just go over a quick demo so we can see, all right? So if I'm staggered on the position with that overhook control, and I'm able to get some control, this is one time where I actually don't mind grabbing on the sleeve, okay? So the overhook keeps me tight on the shoulder over here. This is one time where I don't mind grabbing on the sleeve. So I can grab on the sleeve and go into my single leg extension, just sweeping them up high over that shoulder. Another option is I can go to the tricep, same thing, get that pulled in nice and tight, gluing that underhook to me against my hip, and then shooting myself underneath again, and then high and over the shoulder. And then finally, I can also try to go to like that hook sweep. So this one is good if your partner is trying to like flatten you out with two underhooks. So if he's like driving into me and I was able to stay seated, or maybe I was on my side a little bit, he had two underhooks and I was able to sit back up, something like this. Now I can start to put that foot over here, stomp, carry him over, and go ahead and complete my sweep and all my butterfly options from the overhook. So you can see not much changes in that position. One thing that does change on the overhooks though, and this is something that's nice because you don't have to change grips, is you can sweep to both sides. So before, when I was doing like collar and elbow, let's say like I wanted to sweep him this way, towards this side, well, he's not really gonna go that way. Why? He's got a post, right? Maybe I can set up one of the moves, one of the attacks, like, oh, I fake him out and I sweep this side, and now I can start to go back to one of my attacks. But I'm not gonna get a butterfly sweep out of that, right? Whereas on the overhook, sometimes what happens is you start to go for your initial sweep and your partner changes his base and throws his weight this way. That's a timing where you can just switch your hip and carry him over, right? That's also one of the reasons why I was telling you guys to use this gooseneck grip, okay? Because this grip is gonna allow you to like give a good pull. So when you switch sides, you have the torque that you need to do what? You're twisting his upper body, you're turning his upper body like a wheel, like we've been doing in the other movements to get him going over. So you start your sweep on this side, the overhook blocks the other side, like, so I can just change my hip. I'm just working a front hip escape. And now I'm changing completely the other side. There's my cross foot to post, single leg extension. And I just go ahead, pulling him up with that gooseneck grip and carrying him over, right? So one time quick, I go with an initial lift, change, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the sides because I have the luxury of his both arms being trapped. Okay, so let's look at some submission options from that overhook control, okay? So the first option that I really like in the overhook control is going to the cross collar choke from here. And a lot of times people show this choke from the closed guard, but I believe just as much in doing this choke from the butterfly guard, okay? So when we're here and I have that overhook control and I get that lapel fed deep, this is when I'm gonna look for the control. So I'm not gonna do it if my fist is to my chest. So I take the slack out of that lapel and I make sure I have the control over here. From there, I'm gonna look for the opportunity to pass my hand over his head and start to go get the fabric that's bunched up over here. And most of the time in my experience, the guy's gonna be like driving like tight into you over here. So what you need to do sometimes is you can sneak under and go for him, or you can come over and bring your elbow leading the direction. Now you get that fabric bunched up over here. And to finish, I'm gonna pull the bottom lapel tight, pull everything into me, and I'm gonna start to re-square my hips. So when I'm here, I pull and re-square my hips. What this does is it gives me the ability to do the traditional choke. So I'm gonna sit up with my head, pull the lapels, and start to finish. Also, being square like this allows me, if something does go wrong, to hit the butterfly sweep to this side. So similar to the elbow crunch, I'm gonna elevate the forearm, the elbow under his chin, and I'm gonna carry him over. And a lot of times you can finish the position from like a mounted finish here. Rowing the arms the same way. You don't wanna drop your forearms against the guy's throat, okay? That's making the X bigger in this space. What you wanna do is you wanna row your elbows against your ribs over here. That's what's gonna give you the tightest finish on the position. So again, even if I was kind of down over here, right, I'm monitoring knee line, I'm monitoring head control. I found the opportunity to get this lapel tight. Next, I'm gonna find the chance to swing this arm over, make the grip in the four fingers in the fabric, and then from here, ideally, I'm gonna start squaring back up with it, making sure my knees are clamped. I sit up and I finish the position, or I carry him over, elevating the forearm over here, and I'll just posture up and finish, but you can see I'm just pulling here. Ideally though, I probably put my head down on the side of the top arm and go into my cross choke finish from there. Okay, so let's look at some other attacking options that we have when the sweep's not there, okay? So a lot of times when you're here with this overhook control, whether or not you're playing on the lapel or not, you're gonna be flattened out, like I was telling you guys before. Maybe he took me to the side that was favorable for him. Like maybe I was going for my underhook sweep and he took me to this side. Okay, immediately knee comes out and hand monitors that arm over here so he doesn't beat knee line, doesn't beat my head. But a good guy usually is gonna try to beat your knee line anyway. So you need to stay diligent to stay on your side, and how he's gonna beat your knee line most of the time, he's gonna use his hand to go to your knee. When that happens, that's a good timing to go to his wrist. And once you go to his wrist, your goal is to throw him away from you, okay? So from here, my goal is gonna be to kind of like push him away and sit up. Once I sit up, I'm gonna come back down, but I'm gonna come back down and throw my legs over, back for the triangle. And then from here, like we've already seen, I can go ahead and cut my angle and finish the position, right? So again, I'm here in the position. I had the overhook over here. I had the lapel fed. Even if I was maybe starting from my original butterfly, so my partner turned me the other way, I'm monitoring knee line, monitoring head control, staying on my side. As he's gonna try to beat knee line over here, I go to his wrist. I go to his wrist. It's difficult to sit up. The guy weighs a lot or it's just heavy. I'm just gonna look to kick him away a little bit instead of trying to sweep him. So I'm gonna use a resit. So my hooks are gonna extend. I'm gonna crunch, sit up a little bit, push him away, keep his arm in between, swing myself outside and lock the triangle. Now from this position, I can start to move his arm, adjust the angle, making sure I lock the triangle. Okay, so let's look at one other option that I have from the position where my partner gets the underhook on me, okay? And that's gonna be, sometimes I feel like I couldn't get a good enough bite on this overhook over here. I couldn't get a good enough bite on the whizzer. So I'm gonna go ahead and reach his belt over here. And this is good for who's long, all right? I'm kind of a short-limbed person, so it's not my personal preference of style, but it's still very effective. You see this at a high level all the time. And the reason why is because it takes some length to grip over the back, okay? And this is like the furthest that I'm reaching from him. So my legs a lot of times have to constantly keep like scooting to keep getting him as high as I need to finish the sweep. So when I'm here and I have my partner's belt in the position, what this allows me to do is allows me to pull his hip on top of me, okay? On the other side, I'm looking to control one or two grips, either the outside grip on the tricep like we spoke about, or the grip on the sleeve, okay? And when I'm here, I'm gonna be looking to scoot and really drive off of that single leg extension off of that posted foot. So I'm gonna look to scoot and constantly keep lifting. If he goes to throw his hip back and reset up, always gonna look to keep scooting again and just keep on posting until I can carry him over in the position. A lot of times in this movement, because you're going for height, you're gonna have to keep on hopping off of this foot to keep driving you over, okay? So when I'm here in the position and I'm controlling the sleeve over here, as I start to go to lift, if he's posting out and I'm not getting the height I'm looking for him, I just need to keep on lifting. If he drops his hip back, I need to reset again, pull again, and just keep on lifting, 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 until I can insist on the sweep and carry him over with the belt. Okay, the last one we're gonna look to do from the overhook series is gonna be the omoplata position, okay? So when I'm here in this position, and a lot of times I'm fighting for some of the sweeps that we've been working on, the omoplata, the triangle and whatnot. If at any point I'm having trouble pushing this arm in for my triangle, or I just can't get him to go over, what I'm gonna look to do is put my foot on the hip. If I can get this outside foot on the hip over here, then my other leg can start to come out, and now my leg can start to swing and chop into his armpit. Once my leg swings and chops into his armpit over here, I can keep controlling his elbow, take my leg out, use my free hand to sit up and stretch the leg on top of the shoulder. Both feet turn out. I reach the shoulder, sit up to tell him a secret, and I get him to make a tap, okay? So again, I'm gonna be here in the position. I start to go to my overhook attacks over here, but I'm having trouble like pushing this hand, and I'm having trouble clearing this for base. So if I can reach my foot on the hip, can you just posture up the shoulder? Yep, right over there. That's gonna allow me to monitor the distance. My other foot is gonna come out, and it's just gonna look to swing into his shoulder right here, right by his armpit. I'm gonna allow myself to pivot parallel to him. Leg comes out. Use your hand to help yourself get up and your abs, and stretch your legs forward so his shoulder goes down. Keep controlling his triceps so he can't move. Both feet swing out. I reach the shoulder, and then I go and get my finish on the omoplata. You'll also notice that I have the option too, in this scenario, where if I get my foot on the hip and my partner tries to back out of the position a little bit, I can return back to my elbow control arm bars and things like that. Okay, so now let's look at two techniques that are going to be unique to the standing opponent, okay? One of them is going to be the push sweep. So when I'm here with my partner and I'm playing off a single collar, what I'm looking to do is get my partner to make steps like this, okay? So a lot of times you'll be on that staggered stance in the butterfly, maybe coming to a heist and looking to get him to make steps. If you can be on a 2-on-1 and do the same thing, that's great. Any control that you guys are used to in the position. Once I get him to make steps, I'm gonna look to bring my both ankles, my both hooks right behind his ankles. And that pull is gonna change to a push. As I go to push, I'm gonna sweep him backwards, and my shoulders go in front of my hips as I'm doing that to drive through the position and come to a heist. My other hand can start to go to the ankle, and I'm gonna look to finish on top for the push sweep. The idea is to hopefully catch your partner as he's stumbling forwards so the sweep happens effortlessly, okay? So again, even if I was starting from the 2-on-1 in the position, maybe he was even walking back a little bit, I'm able to pull him, and I change my pull to a push once my ankles hit, and I come to the heist and I finish the push sweep. Guys, the last thing that we can talk about versus standing opponent without having to completely go into another instructional is just going into single legs from there, okay? So the push sweep works well if you can get your partner in a squared stance, in a parallel stance. Sometimes your partner's gonna be in a staggered stance, right? And we went over options, you know, go into the ankle picks, go into the collar drags and things like that. The last thing that I'd say is you can start to go to single legs. So if you see the opportunity to attach a hook and scoot yourself forward to get to a single leg, or maybe if your partner even steps in the middle and you change to the 90-90 heist and attach a leg hug over here, or maybe you try to push sweep and you step one leg back and you're able to get to a single leg, this is gonna be one of the best follow-up attacks to the position, okay? And once you make it to that single leg position over here, to stand up is simple. All I'm looking to do is change to 90-90 if his weight's back and start to come up with my head in the ribs and make it to my single. We're not gonna get too detailed on the finishes, but you guys can go into any single leg finish that you guys want. Just make sure you have a good posture on the position with your head in the guy's chest, the knee rode to you, and a good stance. If my partner is driving into me, so the weight's not on the back leg, the weight's on the front leg, what I'm going to look to do is attach a hook behind, kick him up, and then reheist. And now on the reheist, we come up, and again, I can choose a good single leg finish on the takedown, right? So one more time on that one, this angle. He steps in the center. He's gonna, if he steps back, if the weight's on the back foot, I'm coming up with the 90-90 heist, head in the ribs. If his weight's forwards, I'm kicking him up, spinning up, getting up on my hand, heisting, head is in the ribs, head, knee, toe alignment, and then I choose a finish. I'm gonna take my partner down.